Welcome to another edition of Mind Games. We don't actually know if this is going to work. It's a game of its own because Ursula is all the way in Shanghai with NAVI. I am in Bucharest at the PGL studios for the English broadcast, and we're now trying to do this via hotel Wi-Fi through VPNs. But we think we might have it. Ursula, how is it going there? I mean, what's the vibe like building up to the Perfect World Major?
Right now, we are in a little bit chill mode because we're actually waiting for our legend stage to start. Like the elimination stage starts soon. So we are actually practicing, trying to do some bonding activities. Andre is also setting up with the boys like a pretty solid plan for the coming weeks. So like everyone is busy, but at the same time, we are not having that, like a close to tournament type of mindset that everything needs to be perfect and every time everything needs to be neat. So it's more like we're just floating.
I like it. Just floating. Obviously, the major starting very soon. By the time you watch this, the first stage of the Shanghai Major will be done, and we'll be prepping for that legend stage that Navi will be playing in. And I thought this was such a great opportunity because part of the series that I'm doing, Mind Games, it's all about the psychological play that happens in competitive Counter-Strike. And I'm a firm believer that you can be the best on the server, but what actually matters is how you are dealing with your teammates and how the mental game is affecting you. And that was why I wanted to chat to you, Ursula. Obviously, you are the performance coach with Navi. They are the current major winners, and they've had this streak of wins coming into this event. They've lifted so many trophies this year. We speak so much about the troubles of CS players and the difficulties and the things they have to face. But I do think there's a really interesting conversation to be had about coming into an event like this as the favorites, where the expectation is not negative. It's not everyone telling you how much you suck. It's everyone expecting you to be in the grand finals and lift the trophy. Do you think that the pressure is harder coming into an event like this when you are the favorites?
We are not even looking at the tournament this way. We are looking at the tournament as another tournament that we are about to face. And in every tournament that we go through, we have a specific focus points for mental things. We have specific focus points for the in-game stuff. And like inside of the team, no even saying like, hey, we are the favorites, it's hard to play when you're when you play with underdogs or something. We just deleted that type of storyline, trying not to even go around it. And not to lie, it's like when you set your head for the activities that you want to do, for the actions on the server, for the actions outside of the server, we just take it like one step at a time, because if you approach a tournament with the type of mindset that, oh, you need to win or something, that is preventing you from being here and now. That is preventing you from practicing, from learning, from developing, because you already think about something that is going to happen, which is something that I definitely don't like from my profession, my point of view, because I want the players to be here, to be now, to be enjoying the Shanghai, to be enjoying the tournament, to solve whatever that we have to solve, to practice whatever we need to practice. So it's like, right now for us, it's another event, it's another tournament. Of course, the vibe is there. We kind of realize that, we're in different countries and so on and so forth. And like, the culture is so much different, the food is so much different. So we kind of experience that, but we never run into the playoffs or the stage or something. We just take one game at a time, one step at a time. And, even looking at what our analyst, Victor, is doing, Flashy, he's also having the same type of approach. Like, that's the nearest game that is ahead of us. What do we need to prepare for it? So it's like we don't run so far away just to think about it. We have our own stuff here and now that are important, and I think that's the best approach that you can have for big tournaments like Major.
Is there specific tools or techniques that you share with the players to help them not get caught up in the idea of we've beaten all these teams before, we've lifted so many trophies. They all said it was a fluke when we won the major last time. Now we're going to prove that, we can win it back. All of that's got to be going through their heads. Are there tools that you can use to stop someone from I suppose, getting stuck in that hole and thinking like that all the time?
Then, um, fun fact, like that storyline you just talked about, that's something that is just kicking in the social media. And what I was talking about with the team a couple of days ago, it's that for us at this point, everything that is happening around social media or the storylines and everything that people are talking there, it should be like insta deleted. Like we should not even go into. You can read about, I don't know, what's going on in Arcane, or like, I don't know, go to the cinema or what's the new Gladiator or something. By the way, we also have done that. So we just keep ourselves occupied with the things that do not create artificial pressure, do not create, do not ruin the confidence, do not put like unneeded expectations. And actually, not to lie, being in Navi like more than a year, I know what my players are capable of because I started with this roster. I've taught them a lot about what is destructive, where to put your thoughts before the tournament. They know how to control their thoughts. They try to control their reactions the best they can, hold the emotions when it's important, and release them when it matters, and so on and so forth. So it's like you cannot say that pre-tournament there's like this little thing that will and all the issues and everything will disappear. Is like how you create your own story before the tournament. Do you want to get into those, online battles and just try to, fight them and, trying to prove others? Or you just want to be there for yourself to live through the tournament, to enjoy it, to maximize your productivity and focus on the things that actually matter. And yeah, like this is how we approach it, not to lie.
I love that. I think Zywu from Vitality, I don't believe he actually even goes on social. I'm pretty sure there's someone managing all his accounts. That's probably the best way to do it. If you're not on social media, you can't see it. It doesn't exist. Like you said, you can live in the moment. Has it been tough for the team? Because I'm presuming you stayed in Shanghai after the RMRs. That's a long time to be away from home, to be away from loved ones and living in a hotel.
Tough. But we also have a couple of girlfriends coming in, so that's also helpful for the players. They're not so homesick. But we also have quite a few activities that we do together. We also try to, eat almost every meal together. If we go somewhere in town, we try to hang out together. We also went, go-karting. So we went for like a, amazing racing track in Shanghai where we were just like competing and getting crazy. Actually, the track was pretty wet because it was after rain, so we also drifting like crazy. So it's kind of, we keep the vibes coming, but we also like don't lock ourselves in the hotel room. I'm also preparing some, activities to make sure that their efficiency in the tournament itself is pretty high, basically. In a couple of days, we are going to the Shaolin Training Ground, where I've prepared for them a couple of things about, where's the best way to learn to control your emotions and your body if it's not in China, if it's not around Kung Fu and Shaolin. So this is where we're going. We will be practicing breathing, meditation there, a little bit of Kung Fu, archery, and also the Chinese letters drawing. So it's like, we keep those players activated, but also every single activity that I do or I suggest to do has a purpose. When we were pretty flat after the couple of days off, we went to the kart racing to boost that adrenaline, to make sure that the players are actually effective and they're hyped. Now we're just kind of getting a little bit excited, so we will kind of chill a little bit more in the Shaolin area. So it's like, you need to know how to keep them like not too down, not too excited, but you just keep them balancing with the same energy, with the same hype, especially if you're waiting for your own turn to play. So it's like, daily we also go to like the cinemas for the team dinners, try to spend some time together. So we treat it more like a preparation period for us, and also, getting everyone engaged, laughing together, spending that time together. That's also very helpful because nobody's just going back to the room and just sitting quietly and just feeling like, oh my God, when am I going to play? Like that's the worst that can happen. I would just prefer them to be exhausted and pass out on bed and wake up in the morning, which is also something that we do because we have a pretty fixed schedule. I always liked fixed schedule and like to keep the same waking up time, to keep the same routines that will be matching later on the tournament. That's very important. We had pretty tough schedule if it comes to the jet lag, because we've been preparing for coming into Shanghai a couple of days before, and I was the backup that was waking up the boys at 7:30 in the morning just to make sure that time is, we catch up with the time. Uh, but it all paid off. It all kind of worked well for us. So at some point, coming into such tournament, it's not only just, we just come, practice and do nothing, but we just try to, keep the vibes, keep the bond, keep the productivity, and keep the energy coming. Because, if when you come to that tournament, you cannot just be sad and overthink. You just need to live through it, because in the end, like, this is why you decided to have that career, right? This is why you decided that I want to be a pro player, to live through major. We are now in major, so we just need to learn to live through it.
One of the common threads that comes up in all of the episodes that I've done, focusing here on like the sort of mental side, is mainly from, and I think you also have worked with other titles in esports, is just how exhausting the Counter-Strike schedule is on players. And I mean, your players have mentioned it this year. They've commented on the fact that maybe they're a little bit jet lagged or they're feeling burnout, and I can imagine it must be very difficult to manage that. It must be exhausting to just go from tournament to tournament. And like you said, with the time changes, what have you put in place to try and rectify that, other than obviously phoning your players, waking them up and getting their sleep schedules sorted before they fly out?
See, when you go to different time zones, the most important thing is to eat at the same time as the local people eat. Like, that's very important, because your body changes the clock a little bit and the rhythm. So prior traveling here, we were also adapting the eating time. We were trying just to, stay ourselves awake. But like, if you look at the whole year schedule, it's more like when there are events in Europe, it's like a quick flight, quick fix. We just sleep over, then there is a media day, people chill, people rest, reset, and so on and so forth. But what's difficult for us to handle is that sometimes it is like that you just arrive from a tournament, you have 1 or 2 days to repack, and then you go to another one. And then there's another one coming after. So with that type of schedule, um, you know, everything has a price, and everything has something that you need to sacrifice for your dreams, for your work, for your passion. And I think we are at the point that the players know that whatever they're doing, whatever they're achieving, who they became, came with the price. And not to lie, like, even looking at myself, I'm also a mom of 2 kids. I have a family partner, and I miss them so much, but we kind of all understand that it comes with a price. So I'm also trying to call them every single day. We talk for like hours. Sometimes I'm just sitting on the phone with them when they're eating dinner, just to hang out and just laugh about it. So we just try to do those little things to make it easier for us. But also, if you have around yourself people that understand that support that, and that allow you to be, a part of this journey, then it's easier. And even if I look at all the partners, and big bow to all the girlfriends of our players, they're super supportive. And even if they travel, if they don't travel, they always are kind of understanding. We never have issues around those topics. So I feel like when you go into like high professional career, you just need to understand that there is a price to pay. And it doesn't matter if it's esport, if it's sport, football, or anywhere. Like, every sport has some, let's say, very difficult moments for an athlete, but you just kind of live through it. And then when you have that time that you sit at home, let's say around Christmas tree or something, you just embrace it even more. So I feel like we got used to it, but at the same time, if not the close ones that support us, if not the way we handle that, let's say, distance, it would be so much more difficult. So I feel like in our team, even though we sometimes struggle, we have that fatigue, we have also like a big heart for what we do, and we are capable of sacrificing a lot of things for the things we love, I guess.
So we've spoken about sleep, but I'm curious, do you think that is the biggest hardship that top level professional Counter-Strike players face? The sort of the lack of routine, the moving around all the time, or is there something else that you think is the toughest for them to deal with?
I don't think we have lack of routine. We have just like a lot of flights that we face. But if you look at least my team, you know, I don't know like how it is going in other teams, but in Navi we are very strict about routine, about the time we get up, about the time we go to bed, about the time we spend on trainings, or I don't know, on like warming up exercises, on breathing in the morning, or like whatever we do have everything built in the schedule. And not to lie, schedule is like our little Bible. So if anyone doesn't know what we're doing, it's always in the schedule. And it's actually in details, like what we do, what time. So I think what's making it easier with the flights is that we always more or less stick around the same time. So our team is usually up around 9 o'clock in the morning. We finish the day, try to finish it around 8 p.m., maybe 7 p.m., depending on like what demanding is the tournament or like what time we play. If we play the next game a little bit later, we allow the team to sleep a little bit longer. Then we try to like change it to 10 o'clock maybe to get up, and so on and so forth. So it all depends how things are in the specific tournament. But like we function on routine, and I think that's very helpful for us. And the only thing that is super demanding is when we travel to different time zones. Then adapting to that time zone, especially if you go east, it's difficult. But at the same time, if you do it a couple of days before, if you usually, even if we go to the flight, you know, and we have like 13 to 20 hours flight, I'm also writing down to the boys like a schedule, like, hey, you know, you have this flight, this is the amount of sleep you can have on this flight. Then you go to the next one, then you make sure you sleep at the beginning of the flight. Don't sleep at the end because you land, for example, in the evening, so you'll be tired. So you will not go to bed. So I'm also looking at those little things to also prepare them, just to minimize the, you know, the destruction of the routines we've built, you know. So it's like you look at the big picture and you know what's going to happen, basically. So I think it's the routine is actually saving us. Not gonna lie, that if we wouldn't keep such a strict routine, it would be like all over the place, especially with the jet lags and all that. And the fact that we do have that routine is so easy for us to just juggle and adapt. And also to pick the flights, because not going to lie, like the organization is also supporting us if it comes to the right timing for the flights. Because, for example, it's easier to arrive to a country, like if you have like 12, 15, 16 hours flight when you arrive at, let's say, 3 p.m. And you still have like a day to go on, and then you go to bed. Then if you just slept all flight and you arrive at 23, and what you're going to do. So it's like, you know, it's also like a smart way of organizing things for the players, so they're smooth and we're not basically wasting too much time on things that are like not productive for us.
So what do you think then is the biggest struggle for competitive players right now?
I mean, it's definitely the amount of tournaments we have. That's definitely a big struggle. And the dynamic of it. So, like, how much time in between the tournaments is there? And next year is going to be interesting. Not gonna lie. We'll see. You know, what tournaments we go to. What do we focus on? I mean, once we finish major, then probably we'll just, you know, sit and decide and see what's ahead of us. But I think keeping the bond with the team that you know pretty well is also quite difficult, because every team goes through those 4 phases of team development, which is forming phase. So once team gets to know themselves, they're excited, you know, they're all a little bit fake, you know, want to impress others. Then with time, they go into the storming phase where they fight with each other. There are a lot of conflicts. Some teams stays there or change the players to get back to the forming stages. Some teams fix it and then go into the norming phase and then performing phase. And then when you're in the performing phase, it's very difficult to keep it that way, because people know each other inside out. They do a lot of things together. A lot of those things are pretty repetitive, and to make it attractive, to make it more demanding, and at the same time not getting bored with the people around you, it's pretty demanding too. So you also need to learn to give each other space when you need it, and you need to know that if somebody is like having not the best day, you just don't tweak them all the time, like, hey, what's going on, like, how are you feeling, like, why are you so sad? Just give the person space, and you just learn, like, hey, we all need that, we all have those moments. I feel like the longer you are with the team, the more used to you are to the people, and then seeing the same faces on and on, it's just like, it's fine, it's good, but with some time you just feel like, oh, okay, like, what do I do? So that's why we also keep it, pretty like entertaining, if I can call it like that. We always try to figure out something for the team that is new, that they can see that they can do in a specific place, just to, get the hype and get the vibes high.
This was a question I wanted to ask earlier, and we started speaking about something else, and I wanted to come back to it, and you've just touched on it, because I was going to say, when you are traveling all together so much, and you're in a team, and you have to perform all together, and they must reach a point where, because I know I feel this about some of the people that I love dearly, but there is a moment where you go, I really just want you out of my space, like, and you're not necessarily doing anything wrong, you're still yourself, but for some reason today every little thing you do is annoying me, or maybe I've had a struggle at home, and I've fought with a boyfriend, and so then I'm on edge. I mean, is that something that comes up a lot? I suppose I'm not quite sure how you would word it, but you just get sick of each other, right? I mean, how do you balance that? Is it just because you mentioned there's so many team dinners and activities together? Is there also like planned time to keep everyone apart?
Definitely do that. We definitely do that. If people have time off, we just try not to go in each other's way. And sometimes, like, I need to, like, I really want to good for the boys. And sometimes we have a day off, and then I'm just sitting with places like, Kennedy, what do you think if we would take them? It's like, they have a day off, give them a break. And I'm like, fine, fine. So sometimes I have those things because I don't want them to get bored, but on the other hand, I sometimes know that they just don't want to see each other. They just want to go gym, listen to music, spend some time, like, even browsing through some, I don't know, things on the internet, or reading, or watching some films. Like, everyone needs that space. And as much as, like, during important events, I don't want them to be on their own too much, because you also go into that shell of your own, being homesick a little bit, and just feeling maybe not the best, and you just like start overthinking. So I'd rather keep them occupied, just to keep them running, because if you keep people constantly with high energy, with running and so on and so forth, you don't have that moment that everyone becomes flat, and then you just need to lift them up. So that's one thing. But then on the other hand, this team is like very special if it comes to supporting each other. And we know when somebody's coming into the practice and is not having a good vibe. Like, we know, like, sometimes when I do my exercises with them, when we do like meditation and something, and somebody's trolling my meditation in the middle of it, then I know, like, okay, that's going to be a good day, because when they do that, it means that they're okay. But when I hear them like, okay, let's just get over this, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I know what you're going through. So it's like, when you spend with the people so much time, you just look at them on the first like team walk in the morning, and you just know, like, okay, he's upset, he's pissed, he had a fight with his girlfriend, and this one is actually sick. So it's like, you can tell by being with them so much, like, who is feeling what. But that's personal space is super important. And as long as tournaments like major, they're pretty demanding, and we want to practice as much as we can. We also had some time off. We also try to give free evenings to the guys. They can just go into town, eat something nice, change the area basically. And even myself, I think on the second day off after qualifying, I just left hotel. I think it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I'll go eat some lunch. And then I went to the riverside, and I started walking towards town. And I was like, I had nothing. I didn't want to do anything. I was like, I'll just see what I can do. and I ended up walking on my own, looking at people, looking at the culture, stopping by on the tea shops and so on and so forth for like 6.5 hours. And I didn't even realize, like, oh my God, it's 6 o'clock in the evening now, and I keep on walking. So I actually walked, I don't know, like I had like 20K steps or even more. But I just needed that. I needed my own space. I needed to have that time for my own, and I know players appreciate that too. So it's a part of our life. It's a part of our routine. And when you prepare, for example, because like for us, every tournament has a different topic, different key points, different focus points. Sometimes we focus on the team bond. Sometimes we focus on communication. Sometimes we focus on different aspects. Whereas like in this tournament, we focus a lot on reinforcement and like inside of the team reinforcement. And sometimes to reinforce someone, you just need also that space. And we also talked about that, that, not going through some thoughts, not going through some negativity can actually help them to stay, hyped and positive around the whole tournament. So it's just, I would like to say, like, when you're around the team for so long, you know what they need and when. And to adapt to those needs, it's actually the critical part of staying in the team and functioning in the team for such a long period of time.
Do you think that the team dynamic that Navi has and the way this group interacts with one another on and off the server is the reason they've been so successful? Because the argument has always been, well, they don't have that star player, they don't have the Simple or the Zaiwu, and that was the criticism, and it's still the commentary, but they're still proving everyone wrong and winning tournaments. Do you think a lot of that comes down to that dynamic that you speak about, the attitude that they have, and the fact that they are willing to try and push for positive reinforcements at all times?
Joined the team, everyone was looking at different direction, and part of the job we do as an organization is to make sure that the players look towards the same direction. And what is a fun fact is that it's not always that you need to have a very skilled but not necessarily highly motivated player in your team that is just taking all the spotlights, all the credits, and it's just being there, and everyone around is just like, yeah, another one. But it's good to have a team where everyone can shine, and our team is like that. Somebody was once saying in a comment, or I was reading some comments, that Navi is a type of a team that you don't know who will pop off in a specific day, and that's true. Like, that's true. And fun fact is that when we see a player is on fire, the players are in the habit of reinforcing him, of reinforcing the behavior, just hyping them up and just making sure that the person is just carrying the game because it's his day, and that's absolutely fine. And what's good is that we don't have that jealousy for the spotlight. And I know that in some teams, you could see that players are competing inside for the spotlights. They're just fighting for giving the interviews or something. In our team, I don't think it's the case. It's more like we see, based on the preparation, based on the communication, based on the energy, like who is going to have an edge in a specific day with a specific game. So it's kind of a nice to see because they're pretty equal. Like one day, one person is just having a low day, like they're sick or something, and then the other day they're like absolutely popping up. And I was actually laughing a little bit around the story that people were saying Wonderful was having like an off day or something. This guy was super sick. He was having fever for a couple of days, and I was super proud. I even tweeted that he's my silent hero that day, that he survived. Because people don't see a lot of things that are happening at the backstage, and it's easy for them to criticize. Whereas I'm myself like, oh my God, I'm so happy that this guy's even surviving this specific day. So it's like, if not the whole team that is around him, it would be tough for him, because the player can beat himself about like, oh, I'm the star player. As the star player, I need to show off. I need to, because like if not, the criticism will come, or like whatever. We just don't have that. Like, okay, he is sick. We need to step up and make sure that the player is comfortable. And this is what I love about this team, that everybody is holding each other's back, I guess.
I love that. So I like to end these with a question which I've now posed, just because I love the different answers that come out. So I'm going to pose that question to you. If there was one crucial lesson that you wish you could share with every professional Counter-Strike player that comes into contact with you, that one lesson that you feel is the thing that they tend to not pay attention to but really should, what would it be?
You are what you think. I mean, I'm always telling my players, like, if you ever go to any other team in the future, I want you to remember one thing: you are what you think. If you think about yourself in a bad way, if you think about yourself in a negative way, if you criticize yourself for a misplay or something, that is going to stick with you for a pretty long time, and it's going to impact the next rounds you are. But if you can just shake it off and say, okay, that was I'll say it, fuck up, and the next one is I'll make sure I'm like showing what I'm capable of. Then the player is just shaking it off quickly, and there's no regrets. There is no such a behavior that you just like feel miserable for what you are. And it's not only on the server, it's actually in life, you know. The way we think about ourselves is defining your energy, is defining how people are looking at you, how confident you are. And it doesn't matter if it's a Counter-Strike or if it's a speech in front of, I don't know, 20,000 people. If you think, oh, I'm good at it and I know what I'm talking about, then it doesn't matter who are you speaking or playing or performing, in front. It's just the way you think about yourself is the way you act. And I think that's the lesson, and that's always the first sentence that I'm saying to the players on my first workshops, on my first meetings. It's always like, guys, you need to remember, you are what you think.
That's a life lesson right there. Thank you so much for your time, Ursula. Thank you, and good luck with
Thank you so
the
much.
Shanghai Major.